guys, so what we're going to do today is we are going to actually talk about this idea of problem and solution, or conflict and solution. And so obviously if we were in school right now, I would be starting our lesson off with this question: who has dealt with a problem before? And now, knowing each and every single one of you, I would assume that every single student's hand is raised right now, because at some point or another, we have all dealt with some sort of problem or conflict. And these problems can revolve around situations with family members, with friends, with teachers, with our own personal self, with the environment, the world. What we're going through right now itself is a conflict or a problem that we're dealing with. And so I know that for a fact, every single one of you has dealt with some sort of problem before. But with that being said, when we talk about this idea of social justice, obviously our injustices are examples of these problems. But what is more important, I think, in my own personal opinion, is how do we solve these problems? And no, I'm not talking about solving a math problem, but I would follow up the previous question with who has solved a problem. So a problem that's come up in your life. And once again, I would ask you guys all to raise your hand. And I once again know for a fact that you guys are all raising your hand right now or nodding your head like, yeah, I've definitely solved a problem for sure, because that's what we have to do in life. But those are problems on an individual scale. Those are something that is occurring between, maybe you and a group of friends, or you and your parents, or you and a couple siblings. It's not you versus the world, or a group of people versus another group of people. So that's going to be our biggest issue with social injustice, is that we're not fighting on a small scale. We're fighting a large battle here. And how on earth do you do that? And that's going to be our key question. And when we get to the end of this unit, that's one of the things that I'm hoping you guys get out of this is, how can I be an active member of society and fight against these this unfair treatment of specific groups of people? So with that being said, I just want to look at a couple slides. So a conflict, and let's just do a quick refresher. Conflict is going to be the issue or our problem when two opposing forces are at odds with one another. There's usually some sort of disagreement or discord between the two parties that are involved. And our solution is going to be how the problem's resolved. So what do we do in order to stop this from happening? And one of our questions also for the unit is going to be, is there only one way to solve a problem? And I think it's a really important question for you guys to think about, because not only, like I said, we're dealing with something that's on a larger scale. So how do we solve this problem? We know that there's different ways to solve math problems, but how do you stop people being picked out just because of the color of their skin, or people being isolated because of their religion? Okay, so I want you guys to think, how do we solve these problems? How do we get through this? How do we stop this unfair treatment from happening? So before we do anything, let's just quickly review also the types of conflict. So there are 4 different types of conflict. We have man versus man, man versus society, man versus self, and man versus nature. And so when we're talking about social injustice, guys, we're not really talking too much about man versus nature. What we're going to be talking more so is on these man versus self, man versus society, and man versus man, because it's usually someone against another person, or someone against the rules of the world, or the expectations, or these stereotypes that have been created over hundreds and hundreds of years ago that some people still believe today. And one of the other biggest ones is going to be man versus self, because how are you going to deal with these conflicts? What's going to happen if you ever get put in a situation where you encounter one of these conflicts? That's the real question. So how do you solve a conflict? And this is not the end all be all. This is not how these 5 things that I'm putting here, this is not the only way in order for us to solve a conflict. But it's a good start, and it's something that you need to think about when you're looking at these ideas of social injustice. So in order to be understanding and solve a problem, Not only do you need to hear all sides of the situation, but you also need to have knowledge of this topic or the issue that they're having. You can't just come into a conversation mid-sentence and just give your input and think that that's going to solve someone's issue. You need to hear all sides of the situation. You might not agree with all of them, and quite honestly, you probably won't. And that's okay because everybody has different opinions. But you need to be knowledgeable about what's going on, and you need to make sure you know all different sides of the situation. In order to also solve a conflict, you're going to need to think critically about it. You need to evaluate. You can't just jump and be like, yep, that's the solution. I'm going with it. You have to think about it. Think about what's going to happen if you take action, right? So in order to solve anything, you can't just sit there and watch. You have to take action. You need to do something. What is that something? I can't tell you right now because it's a case-by-case situation. It's a situation that depends on who you are, what you're dealing with, what's going on in the world, but you're going to need to take action because that's the only way people are going to be able to solve something. And get the message out there. So when we're talking, this one's kind of specifically for social injustice. Get that message out there. So I'm sure you guys have heard, well, you guys definitely know what hashtags are. And so when we talk about that idea of hashtags, there's been multiple hashtag movements. So if you guys are familiar with hashtag Ice Bucket Challenge, right? That's something that was used to get a message out there to fight against a disease. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. That's also one. Hashtag Me Too. All of these are trending hashtags because they're things that people are trying to be activists about, to get the word and the message out there in order to stop and fight against these issues that society is facing. And so that brings us to our final slide. How do we combat or fight against social injustices, the unfair situations occurring in our world today? There's different methods. There's things that people are doing. But guys, I'm going to give you the most cliche statement I have always heard, and I'm going to give it to you right now, is Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to be able to fight these injustices in one day. You're not going to be able to. And you're going to need other people to back you. There's power in numbers, and that's what you're going to need. But there's so many other factors that go into solving and stopping these social injustices in our world. So what can you do? How can you help? And so what we're going to spend our unit doing is educating ourselves on some of these social injustices, making our own viewpoints, developing our own views on these issues, and making decisions and seeing what we can do in order to help our world. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this slideshow, and what we're going to do just today is I'm going to just have you guys practice matching up some conflict and solution or problem and solutions. So that's what your assignment's going to be today. So listen to this. Hopefully you listen to this through the whole thing, and then you can work on IXL and complete those questions for about 15 minutes. And then tomorrow you guys are going to have a writing piece. So I want you guys to start thinking about a problem and a solution, or like in some way that you faced a problem and a solution. And it could even be something related to a social injustice. Maybe you've already faced one and you want to share about it. It doesn't have to be, but I do want you guys to start thinking today about a problem that you have faced and a solution, or how you at least reacted to it, or what you wish someone might have done, or what you wish you might have done differently. So that's going to be tomorrow's assignment, so you don't have to worry about it, but I just want you guys to start thinking, and I will see you guys around. So I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye, guys.